I have exciting things to talk about. Okay, so we're going to talk about emergency situations, or even just trying to live lighter on the planet, however you want to put it, for females, for women. So we're going to get really specific, and I'm not going to try to offend anybody, but I am going to talk very explicitly about this. So if you're sensitive and you are a female that wishes she was not, she didn't, anyway, yeah. If you're somebody who's really sensitive, just go away. Okay. Now, all of these things that I'm going to talk about are things that I have used. And I've waited to do this until I got my new stuff in. Okay, so in an emergency situation, this is something that women need to be aware of. Because of the moist environment of feminine areas, you need to be extremely, extremely careful with hygiene. Now, my favorite tool for that is this. I don't even know what these are called, Irrigation bottles. When you have a baby and you have a tear, this is what they give you, and you fill it with water and then you use it to irrigate your genital area after you go to the bathroom. Rather than using toilet paper to wipe yourself clean, they give you an irrigation bottle. Now, this is, in an emergency situation, something you always want to have on hand, because every time that you have your period, if you want to be able to and you're not able to take a shower every day because there's a limited amount of water, you can use this. You can boil water till it's very clean. You can let it cool down, and you can use this to irrigate down there and get blood off of yourself. You don't want that blood down there, especially if you're prone to any kind of infection. This is also good for anybody else. If anybody ever gets hurt down in that, men as well, in the genital area, this is something that could be a lifesaver to keep an area clean. So the other thing is, okay, so if you're not married, this might be a little bit of a sensitive subject for you. You might not understand this. But after you have sex, you have semen that leaks out of your body over a period of up to like 12, 24 hours after having marital relations. And because it continues to seep out, you need to be able to clean that up. And if you're prone to things like urinary tract infections, that semen can actually exacerbate your female urinary tract infections. And so every time you have sex, once you're married, every time you have sex, fill this with some warm water and irrigate down in that area. All it does is it shoots water into your labia and just a tiny bit into your vagina, and it rinses it out. You don't need to put anything but clean water in this. And it will help you smell better, it will help you feel cleaner, and it will keep you from having urinary tract infections. Now, that being said, if you have chronic urinary tract infections, in a situation where if you're pregnant or you can't, especially if you're pregnant, if you have UTIs and you're pregnant, you need to get that fixed. It's not good for you, it's not good for the baby. So the natural, my midwife taught me this, because I had constantly, after I got married, I constantly had urinary tract infections. I couldn't seem to be able to get rid of them. And it wasn't a hygiene issue. It wasn't that I wasn't taking showers. It was the pH inside my body in that area was not optimal. I needed to be more acidic. And so what she had me do was she had me take 2 gallons of water and put a little bit of salt and then some lemon juice in it until it tasted sour. And then I was to force myself to drink it as quickly as I could. And anytime that I felt like my urinary tract infection was coming back, I needed to drink a quart of water with some lemon juice in it. And I have not had a urinary tract infection since then. And I had it chronically when I was pregnant with Paige. It was something, it was an emergency. We needed to get this cleaned up before I gave birth. So, but what else helps with that is that after having sex, have good hygiene. Rinse yourself off. It is not okay to just use pads to soak that up. You need to wash yourself off. It's really, really important in an emergency situation to keep things down there clean. If everything else goes to pot, that's okay. If you got BO and stuff, it's okay. If you don't wash your hair, it's okay. wash that area after sex, and when you're having your period, keep it clean. And this is unrelated because I've never used a douche, but Nature's Cleanse is a Melaleuca product, and if you have a baby with a diaper rash, take 1 cap of this, put it in one of these irrigation bottles with water, and then every time you change their diaper, sprinkle some of this on their little privates and their little bum, and it will heal them. Not kidding. My mom used this when I was a kid, when I had so many little brothers and sisters and diaper rashes, and when she started using this, that no longer happened. If it's really bad, put your baby in the sink, 1 cap of this with the sink full of water if they're really red and raw, and let them soak in it for a little while, and it will get rid of that diaper rash. It's amazing. I'm sorry this is really disjointed, but I feel a little uncomfortable talking about this, but I really need to get it out there. So hopefully you're picking out the pearls among the swine type of a thing. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about, and hopefully we're all girls here because I'm going to show you my cloth pads that I've actually used, so there's a little bit of staining on them. So I made these from a sanitary napkin pattern, and I just use a safety pin on the underside. So I took a sanitary napkin that had wings on it, and I traced around it to make a pattern, and then I took flannel sheets. It needs to be cotton. It has to be cotton. If it's not cotton, that's not good. It won't breathe very well. So I took old flannel sheets and took some tape, some fabric tape, and sewed them just here on the edges in 3 spots. And then I made myself some inserts that just slide right in there underneath those, some thick inserts, and that way that is my reusable sanitary napkin. And then this just folds just like a regular sanitary napkin, folds around your panties, and then this just safety pins in place, and that way you don't have to go to the trouble of trying to get snaps on it that'll close. It just works perfectly. And the only thing I did was around the outside is a zigzag stitch to keep it from running. And that's how I did sanitary napkins. And then I have this little pot, and I only use this pot for boiling my sanitary napkins that are fabric. Can you see that? I use it only for that and for soaking pads. Now, one word to the wise about cloth sanitary napkins. If you leave them in a container and let them sit for a really, really long time, they will build up a bacteria in them that likes blood. Now, what happens the next time you put those pads on and you start to bleed? That bacteria in those pads likes blood. And so that bacteria in those napkins will start to develop and feed on the blood that's coming out of you, and you can get sores. So I don't like to use these. The reason I don't like to use these is because if I forget to wash them within like 8 hours, I am concerned about the bacteria. Granted, I do boil them, but everybody knows that once clothes, like if you have t-shirts that are like a couple years old, how you can never really get them feeling clean again. They're kind of gunky, and they feel like the fibers in them are kind of gunked up with dirt and stuff, and they don't smell good anymore. Well, times that 15 by these, because they've had blood on them. I don't like to wash them with my other laundry. Some people really swear by these and really love them, but I'm kind of a scatterbrain, and I have a tendency not to remember that I need to wash them before they've sat in the soaking pot for too long. That's just my personal take on it. You guys, so the reason I'm doing the video now is because I was going to show you guys what my preference is. And this is a new one. Now, there's a caveat to this. The whole Diva Cup, Menstrual Cup thing this is the one thing you really have to watch for. If you have not had sex before, there is a pretty good chance that when you put this in, you're going to tear your hymen, and it is really going to hurt. For me, I got my first one when I was in my 20s, and that was the case with me. It says on the box, get the one size that's supposed to be good for those who haven't been in childbirth before, but there's a difference between having not had a baby and having not had sex. You're much smaller if you haven't had sex. You're much tighter if you haven't had sex. And for me, the experience of getting it in wasn't so bad, but getting it back out, you have that lip that kind of catches, and that is, I tore really badly when I tried to get it out. And so when they tell you that it's safe for girls that haven't had babies yet, that doesn't mean it's safe for those who haven't had sex yet. And I would not recommend it if you haven't had those experiences yet. I wouldn't use a Diva Cup. You're going to hurt yourself. That being said, yeah, I feel a little bit frazzled. I hope you guys will forgive me for the fact that I feel incredibly frazzled talking about this, and I hope none of my men subscribers are watching this. It's a little personal. Okay, so the one that I started with was the Diva Cup. And the thing that I liked about it was that it was odorless. It was extremely sanitary because you just take it out and rinse it out, put it back in, and then at the end of that cycle, you just boil it because they're silicone. You just boil them, so they're very sanitary. I wouldn't just rinse them. I would boil them every single period that you have at the end of that period. This one looks nothing like the Diva Cup. The Diva Cup has a long twig thing that hangs off the bottom, and it has ribs on the side, so it doesn't look the same, but it's still a menstrual cup. This is still a menstrual cup. And the thing I didn't like about the Diva Cup was that stem that hung down had a tendency to poke out of me, and then it would rub. When I would move, this moves just a tiny bit, and it would rub around the outside of my vagina, and it caused some real chafing there, and I didn't like that. And I could have cut it off, but in the end, I just didn't like it. I didn't like it. And that was before I had babies. Now, after I had babies, the problem is that my cervix, which sits up here inside the vagina, and it opens when you have a baby, it just kind of looks like that. When I had my babies, my cervix lowered. And so it meant that because my cervix was lower, it kind of had a tendency to try and push the Diva Cup out of me. So this one, the reason I'm doing this one is called the Femi Cycle Menstrual Cup. And I got mine for low cervix. Let's see, can you see the words right there? Low cervix. I haven't tried it yet, but I liked it because it had just this little lip on the end to grab hold of instead of a stem. And also, let's see, I'm not really good at this whole focusing thing with these stupid cameras. Can you see this? Can you see that lip inside there? That is supposed to be a no spill technology, and you can see it's in there. So what would happen is that the blood goes in, but then that lip on the side would catch it so that it couldn't come back out. And so I'm super excited to try this. It cost a ton of money. Oh my gosh, it cost a ton of money. It was 40 bucks for this. However, these things last for years and years and years and years. They never die. And so it'll save you from having to buy sanitary napkins. It's not latex. It is silicone, medical grade silicone, so it doesn't degrade. Your body's not going to react to it. And you just boil it. And in an emergency situation, it would mean that bears couldn't smell you. It would mean that your fellow companions couldn't smell you, because it's like a tampon in that it stays inside. Personally, I can't use tampons. They stick to the walls of my vagina when I try to pull them out, and it really hurts to try and pull tampons out. Whereas this, because it's silicone, it just slips right out. Some people, like girls that again haven't had babies, can lubricate it, but I don't get along well with lubrication. My body likes my body, and that's all it likes. No kind of lubrication at all, but I don't have a problem putting these in. So what you do is you fold it up like that so that it's just smaller. See that? And then you push it in and you let it open back up. And it creates a seal and a suction inside. And then when you're ready, you just push in the side to get it to release the seal. You pull it back out and you dump it, you rinse it, you put it back in. It is a little bit awkward to do this in a public restroom. The reason being is that obviously there's blood, you're pouring it down the drain. So it's better to try and find, if you can wait till you get home. If you have a gray water system, this would be black water. Don't put this down a gray water system, put it down the toilet. And it doesn't there's no waste. It's not like you're putting tampons and sanitary napkins in in a landfill. Again, there's no smell. There's hardly any mess. Again, I use one pot only just for sanitary type stuff. You don't want to be putting this in a pot that people would be eating from afterwards. It came in this nice little bag so that it's a little bit discreet. And I haven't used it yet. It just came today, but I thought it would be exciting to show you. And there are all kinds of menstrual cups. There's the Lunette, the Luna, the Diva Cup, the Glad Rags. There's also like squishy seafoam ones and everything. But I do much better with the silicone just because of my pH problems. My body doesn't like anything foreign in it. It really doesn't like anything besides silicone in there. So, and that being said, I have a whole nother video I could do about what is it called? The Pearl fertility indicator, because I can't use, when we first got married, I couldn't use latex condoms because of the spermicide on it, because of all that kind of thing. We ended up using sheep intestine condoms. But in the end, what really worked was just to get a Pearly, that is a fertility monitor. You take your temperature with it every day, and it tells you when you're fertile, and you watch your cervical fluid. So that's what we did, and it seemed to work pretty well. That's the other thing you kind of have to think of in an emergency situation. Having sex in an emergency situation means that you could get pregnant. And if it's a long-term emergency situation, a pregnancy can put your life at risk and the baby's life at risk, not necessarily because of what medical attention there is available, as much as your nutrition level and needing to be able to move quickly and needing to be able to eat whatever's available. And so during an emergency situation that might be long-term, I would advise against having regular sex. And if you're married, you know that sex helps men stay happy. And so finding alternative ways to have sex and to be close and intimate with your partner would probably be your best bet. And however you decide that you're going to do that, I leave it up to your imagination. But be creative, be inventive, and stay happy with your partner. Sex definitely helps with that kind of stress relief for men. And so I wouldn't say cut your man off, because then he'll get cranky. But just don't be having actual intercourse during that time if you're concerned that it might be a long-term type of a situation, even if you have birth control. And unless you know that it's 100% certain that you're not going to get pregnant. If you have, if condoms seem to work really, really well for you, then by all means go for it. But just be really, really careful. If you're on hormonal pills, I would probably double up on your condoms too. If you got something like the NuvaRing that needs to be changed occasionally, then when you get to the point where that NuvaRing has expired, make sure that you're doing something else. Because having babies on low-calorie intake or high-stress situations is really hard on the mom, and your current family, you kind of already have a responsibility to be alive and around for them, and bringing a new baby into harsh situations, the baby might not make it. So that's kind of a hard reality there. It's one thing for the pioneers. They were kind of used to those hardcore situations, but at the same time they lost a lot of babies and a lot of mamas in those hard situations, and it's probably best to just conserve your energy and focus on the family that you already have during those kind of situations. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more, go ahead and ask me once I've tried this. I'll give you a more in-depth idea on that, and talk to you later.